Caitlin Clark, move over more because Juju is special.
Juju Watkins is she's going to be bigger than Caitlin Clark. And I don't even know if that's possible for what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball.
Yeah, Matt, that's what's going to be interesting. Caitlin is a supernova, and Juju probably is a better player.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a little too early to foresee the end of the Caitlin Clark era in the WNBA. The young star is just getting started after all. She just wrapped up her very first season as a professional, but she has had an illustrious basketball journey already. In college, she became the all-time leading scorer for the NCAA Division I category for both men's and women's basketball, breaking the 54-year-old record set by Pistol Pete Maravich. She broke a lot of three-point shooting records and assists records for college basketball as well. Her accolades were starting to pile up, so it was about time she got drafted. She became the obvious choice to go as the #1 pick in the draft. She did not slow down when she got into the big leagues, though. She came into the WNBA this season as the most ready that a WNBA player has ever been to take over the landscape of women's basketball. She set the record for the most points a rookie has made in a season with 769. At the same time, she had also set the record for the most assists a rookie has ever made in a season with 337. All of the signs are pointing to Clark's prolonged dominance over the WNBA league for the foreseeable future. This puts a target on her back. Everybody is going to want to swipe at whoever is on top. This comes from fellow players, like we have seen so far even in her rookie season. Yet it also comes from fans and media. Now we have a prominent media personality trying to project the end of the Clark era, even if it has just barely started. I'm referring to the iconic NBA legend Charles Barkley, who is already proposing that we should prepare for a young prospect 3 years away from draft eligibility to take over the WNBA and put an early end to Caitlin Clark's dominance. As absurd as some of his takes are, Barkley still has a massive impact on basketball discourse and how fans will be interacting with the WNBA. Charles Barkley is a Hall of Famer who played a long time from the 80s to the 90s era of the NBA. In this career, he won the MVP award, led his team to many deep playoff runs and 2 Olympic gold medals, and ended up being part of the NBA's 50th anniversary team and 75th anniversary team. He did almost achieve everything there is to achieve in a playing career. After that, he then became an iconic figure in basketball media. He is mostly known for being part of Inside the NBA. He's provided some questionable analysis of the current game from time to time, as it is based on his experience playing the game during a very different era. Charles Barkley has covered the game of basketball for years, stretching back all the way to the year 2000. He has seen a fair share of star players come and go, and torches being passed across generations. This time, he's saying that Caitlin Clark's face of the WNBA status will not be for very long. Now, Barkley definitely isn't doing this to bait people into rage. He is aware of all the unfair negativity being thrown at Caitlin Clark already. It's clear that he doesn't take these comparisons and toxicity lightly. He willingly called these out on TV.
You women out there, y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlin Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world.
Oh, you are.
Y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all ass private charters, all the money and visibility she bringing to the WNBA. Don't be petty like dudes. Listen, what she's accomplished, give her flowers. Stop being petty, all you women out there.
Charles Barkley is likely referring to the many cases of WNBA players that have been ramping up the physicality in their game. It's done to a degree that makes people concerned that they're just making straight-up dirty plays against the budding star. Barkley has expressed a lot of concern for the WNBA in this past year. He has spoken about how certain decisions have led to the downfall of the league regarding this Caitlin Clark situation.
They cannot have fucked this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. If you got people in a room, if you got a bunch of dudes in a room and says, let's fuck up the WNBA, we couldn't have came up a master plan what these women have done. This girl is incredible. What she did in college for women's basketball, what she's doing in the WNBA.
He seems to imply that the other WNBA players should cool it with the harsh physicality since they owe Caitlin Clark for so many good things that have come the WNBA's way, such as now having the money for charter flights. I don't think Caitlin herself would agree with this mindset, though. She is just as fierce of a competitor as those going for her throat. She would be insulted if her fellow athletes took it easier on her because of that. She has expressed as much in certain interviews. Bill Simmons, as the host in this podcast, had pointed out the mild hypocrisy in Charles Charles Barkley's statement, as he is also a vocal critic of newer NBA stars. On Inside the NBA, he constantly compares the new school athletes with the older generation of stars that he had played against. He's remained stubborn about how the game is supposed to be played, as it has evolved greatly from the 90s era. Barkley seems aware of this flawed perspective of his, at least, and redirects the jab into just more praise for Caitlin Clark and her stoic reaction to all of the hate.
Well, you got accused of that stuff too, with the older players being resentful of the new generation. It's kind of part of the basketball process. Everybody thinks their generation's the best.
No. Anytime we say something about guys, it ain't the old get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
But the stuff toward her is petty and jealous. And the thing I love about her, she never says a word.
Never saying a word to feed the negativity of audiences and media is a special trait that will take you far in your career. Some basketball prodigies that we'll be talking about in this video share this quality in their DNA as fierce competitors. Barkley has exemplified another form of mild hypocrisy by recently comparing Caitlin Clark with a women's basketball player who isn't even in the league yet. There's an ever newer star having a meteoric rise in college, similar to the one that Clark had, so it's hard for people not to make the comparison. This player is Juju Watkins. In this following recording of Charles Barkley, he repeated himself by calling WNBA players bitter over Caitlin Clark, but expanded on that by warning them that there are more stars to come. His inflammatory style of praise for Juju Watkins far exceeds his shout-out to everything Caitlin Clark has done so far for women's basketball.
In USC, football's always going to be king over basketball, no matter how much success. But that young lady y'all got at USC right now, Juju,
incredible.
Hey, I tell all them bitter, angry girls in the WNBA and are upset about Caitlin Clark, move over more, because Juju is special. Number one, I would give a shout out to Caitlin for what she's did for women basketball the last 3 years, man. It's been incredible. And I wish those women would embrace it. But, Matt, that girl, Juju, she is the real deal.
First off, who is Juju Watkins, and how has she impressed so many basketball legends? Juju Watkins was already getting a ton of buzz even from high school. Once she became a college freshman, that attention blew up even more. She has been breaking records left and right for the USC Trojans. Plenty of these records she broke, such as the most points in a debut college game, and consecutive 30-point games belonged previously to some WNBA greats. Everything seems to point towards Watkins becoming a WNBA legend in the far future. We'll just have to be patient, as the 19-year-old Watkins won't be eligible to join the WNBA draft until she turns 22. There's plenty more to develop in that span of time, and the possibilities are endless as to what level of player Juju Watkins could become, as she has all the tools to end up as an all-time great. She has the opportunity to make the most of this newfound popularity league-wide. The rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese has put the WNBA on the map, similar to how Magic and Bird did in the early 80s. A couple of years after that, it took a transcendent star like Michael Jordan to capitalize on that and take the league to even higher highs. In the WNBA's case, we're hoping that Juju Watkins, together with Caitlin Clark, take that role for the league. Let's hear what Juju has to say about this role that the people are trying to assign to her. She appeared on Paul George's podcast and spoke about the idea of her being the face of women's basketball.
Well, that's a big title. I wouldn't say that. I think that it's just, I wouldn't be considered the person I am without my competition. I mean, the comp is everything. The conferences, the great teams. I mean, I guess that's really what matters, just who you're playing. I think that's also a factor in how great you are, and just seeing who you're able to play in. So I wouldn't say I'm doing it alone. I mean, there's great teams everywhere, so many great players, and I'm just glad that I get to play against them.
Based on this, she really does have a good head on her shoulders, albeit a little too kind to be compared to Michael Jordan anymore. That humility and respect for competitors will go a long way to her continued development as a player. There is so much negativity in basketball discourse. The WNBA especially gets subjected to a ton of toxicity because there isn't as much fandom to go around for all the players. The players themselves also start their fair share of heated beef, may it be out of intense competitive fire or bitter jealousy. Even reporters feel the need to stoke the fires of a non-existent rivalry. It's bad enough that fans resort to this type of beef. Luckily, this just served as another example of Juju Watkins' respect for her competitors. She knew that she did not have to go down to that level. It's nice to know that she has that much respect for Caitlin Clark, too, since she is someone paving the way for her. It would be interesting to see if the friendly manners remain once they become more direct competitors in the WNBA, or if Juju starts more viciously going at Caitlin, like what other WNBA players have done.
Now, there's a lot of players in the country playing Division I basketball. Nobody scored more points in one game this year than you. That's the most.
That's
this season.
crazy. Yeah. More to come for sure.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark who?
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Much respect there.
Juju Watkins is such a class act to not fall into the trap of firing shots at Caitlin in that clip. That is certainly the biggest takeaway you should have from the video. But the main reason for that interview in the first place was to announce the greatness of Juju Watkins on the basketball court. No one in her batch of college athletes has been able to match her production as a scorer. That game that the reporter is referring to is her battle against Stanford, where she dropped 51 points and 11 rebounds, leapfrogging Caitlin Clark's college career high of only 49 points. In only her freshman season, she averaged 27.1 points, 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 2.3 steals, and 1.6 blocks. In comparison, Caitlin Clark as a freshman averaged 26.6 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 7.1 assists per game, along with only 1.3 steals and 0.5 blocks per game on the defensive end. It might be surprising to see Juju surpass Caitlin in scoring numbers, but Caitlin had an elite effective field goal percentage of 57.4% in her rookie year, which greatly succeeded over Juju Watkins's effective field goal percentage of only 44.5%. Looking at these stat comparisons, it's still clear why people have placed similar expectations on Juju Watkins to become a phenomenon like Caitlin Clark at some point in the future. It's important to remember that though Juju's statistics and production are at an advanced level that is fit more for a college senior coming into the WNBA draft, she is actually only a 19-year-old freshman who can't even be drafted yet for 3 years. This hints at a massive upside for the young prospect. Then again, by the time she enters the draft, Caitlin Clark would have 3 more years of WNBA experience under her belt and would be performing on a whole different level above Juju. And before Watkins even starts worrying about the WNBA, we have to witness her match Caitlin Clark's production in all of her years in college. We shouldn't be so quick to jump to the next trend if that player is still unproven, and the prior players are still building an amazing legacy themselves. Charles Barkley sounds like he agrees with the contrarian sentiment of the reporter as well. Though he has given a ton of praise to Clark, he still thinks Juju will likely be a better player. This is a pretty controversial opinion since Clark is far and away the most hyped prospect and the better player at the moment.
Yeah, Matt, that's what's going to be interesting. Caitlin is a supernova, and Juju probably is a better player. So those two women going to be running the WNBA for the next 10, 12, 14, 15, 20 years, basically. And I advise those other women to...
Barkley does go on to say that they will both run the league together for many years. Perhaps it'll be the same kind of dynamic as LeBron and Steph back in the prime fighting for every other championship in each year. New fans are realizing more and more that there are still a ton of WNBA players to watch, aside from Caitlin Clark. Barkley was enumerating some of them until he heard the name Paige Bueckers. The enthusiasm for this player stopped him in his tracks to focus on talking about her. She's another name that would be added to the 2 women who will potentially run the league in the future. Barkley noted that her injuries have been a significant variable in her career so far, and this could be a nagging issue for the future of her games as well.
It's going to be fun to watch because I'm a big WNBA fan, and I just hope those girls, like, you know what, we got Caitlin, and we got Juju,
yep.
We got Asia,
Paige,
we got Nafisa.
Paige Bueckers coming in from UConn.
Oh my God, I forgot about Paige.
Yeah, I watch her workouts. They're
because
insane.
if that girl stay healthy, she's in the conversation with Juju and Caitlin for the next 20 years. People forget this. She was considered one of the best high school players ever. She just can't get a break because she keeps getting hurt.
Yeah.
And she finally was healthy last year. And I tell you what, that game they had in the tournament, man, she was special also. Man, it's a great time for the WNBA. I hope they milk it for the next, because this is a great time.
Paige will be another potential candidate for someone who could rise up against Caitlin Clark's expected league-wide dominance. Back in the recruitment season of the 2020 batch of women's incoming college basketball players, she was a 5-star recruit and actually ranked higher than Caitlin Clark as a prospect. She ended up with the historic women's basketball powerhouse of UConn, where she still ended up consistently breaking records by dropping massive scoring outbursts in consecutive games, as well as assisting the most from any UConn player in history. This freshman season saw a lot of blowouts by the hand of Paige. In this freshman season, she averaged 20 points, 4.9 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 2.3 steals, and 0.4 blocks. One thing she and Caitlin have over Juju is their efficiency from beyond the arc, with Paige going for an insane 46.4% and Caitlin having 40.6% with nearly double the three-point attempts as Paige. Bueckers' stats don't jump out of the page when compared to Caitlin Clark's. Still, Caitlin and Paige actually ended up sharing 2 Freshman of the Year awards, so it was a real discussion that these two are on the same level. Multiple WNBA legends even spoke about how they would much rather take Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark, yet this could also just be that petty jealousy that Charles Barkley was talking about. In her freshman year, Paige ended up as the winner of the Female College Athlete ESPY Award over Caitlin Clark. Caitlin had the last laugh, though, as she ended up winning this award twice in her final 2 years of playing college basketball. Instead of going into the WNBA draft as Caitlin did, Paige opted to play another year in college. She's now primed to take the mantle left by Clark and become the face of women's college basketball, while Caitlin is making a name for herself in the WNBA. Paige actually knows Caitlin fairly well due to having a lot of previous experiences with her. She's gotten very familiar with Caitlin Clark over the years, as they've gone through similar things in their young careers. Paige Bueckers has nothing but praise for Caitlin Clark and what she's been able to do so far. Paige also sounds genuinely excited to compete against Caitlin again in the WNBA someday. It's a matchup we'll be getting a lot of in the professional league soon, and it will be interesting to see who comes out on top.
I know Caitlin, of course. We go way back, Midwestern. We had a lot of battles in AAU and stuff like that. We played together on Team USA. I think she's just a competitor. She wants to win. She has just intangibles of the game. She knows how to play, great IQ. But I think the biggest thing about her is she competes, and she's just a winner. She wants to win at all costs. And so I know going into that, it'll be a great matchup. But I'm excited. It's great for the game, and to be at this level on this high of stakes, to see where we were in AAU competing against each other, it's just really cool to see.
So there are now some women's basketball players who are primed to duke it out with Caitlin Clark in the future. That's the expectation that comes with greatness. You will always have competitors come for your throne. I'm sure this idea fuels Caitlin Clark every day to keep getting better and perfecting her game. Inversely, she is that high bar that every other WNBA prospect is trying to catch up to. For now, we should appreciate the greatness of Caitlin Clark balling out in the WNBA. More discourse will be had regarding her successor in the league. More legends from the history of the NBA and WNBA shall chime in and share their hot takes about who deserves more praise. Charles Barkley will not be the last to do this. Even LeBron James has given an encouraging message to Juju Watkins on Instagram. This followed the gigantic Nike shoe deal that Juju Watkins had signed, just like Caitlin Clark did. Many great basketball minds do see that Juju Watkins will become the next big thing in women's basketball, though LeBron himself is living proof that it may be harder than you think to overthrow the face of the league. Receiving the passing of the torch could take longer than what you expect. The WNBA should be milking this newly formed tension in the WNBA landscape. These are very marketable stars, so it has the potential to really change the WNBA for all of its new viewers. Do you agree with Chuck's hot take? Let us know in the comments below. Hopefully this video got you to think more about the future of the WNBA. It looks like it'll be in good hands for decades to come.